Hey everyone, I appreciate you being here today. I've got a story I never thought I'd be telling. My name's Brandon, and if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that things can change in an instant. Just 3 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Marriage, career, stability. But now, everything that once seemed so permanent is just a distant memory. It's a strange feeling to look back and realize how quickly things can unravel. I never imagined I'd cross paths with my ex-wife again. And when I did, she cried. In that moment, I wish I could say I knew exactly how I felt, but I didn't. I wasn't sure if I should feel proud of the progress I'd made or devastated by all that I'd lost along the way. To make sense of it all, I need to take you back to the beginning, because this story doesn't make sense without understanding where it all started. Catherine and I met at the gym where she worked at the front desk. I'd been a regular for a while, and while she was always polite, we never really spoke until one day, for some reason. We did. I don't even remember how the conversation started, but once it began, it kept going. There was something about her. Before I knew it, I found myself looking forward to our chats and hoping she'd be there when I walked in. It didn't take long before things turned into something more. We started dating, and within a little over a year, I thought I knew her better than anyone. We spent weekends together, took long drives, and cooked meals side by side. I was sure I'd found someone I could spend my life with. So I proposed, and she said yes. We got married, and at the time, everything seemed to fall into place. I had a steady job as a back-end engineer at Airbnb. The pay was great, and we lived comfortably. Catherine was still working at the gym, but I always believed she had so much more potential. She had the kind of mind that could do anything if she wanted to. So I encouraged her to quit her job and consider freelancing. I promised to teach her the skills I'd picked up over the years. We had the financial security to take that risk, and I wanted to see her doing something she truly enjoyed. She agreed. We were starting a new chapter, filled with hope. We talked about the future, maybe even having kids. But then everything changed. When the pandemic hit, the world stopped. Airbnb took a huge blow, and I, along with many others, was laid off. There was no real explanation. It was a time when no one expected answers. I tried to stay optimistic. I threw myself into side projects, hoping one would turn into something stable. But it wasn't the same. Soon, we had to face the harsh truth. I sat down with Catherine and told her we'd have to cut back. I told her I couldn't keep things as they were, and that we both needed to make adjustments. I thought she'd understand, but I was wrong. She didn't take it well. Something in her changed. The warmth that used to be there faded. The small disagreements we used to laugh off escalated into full-blown fights. Every little thing triggered tension. She started treating me like a burden. She called me lazy, told me I wasn't trying hard enough. I was doing everything I could, but it was never enough for her. I didn't recognize the woman I had married anymore. She wasn't just stressed. She seemed to resent me, and the more I tried to fix things, the worse it got. Eventually, she said she wanted to visit her parents. I thought the space might help. Maybe a break would give us both a chance to regroup. But once she left, everything went quiet. She barely responded to my texts. Calls went unanswered or were cut short. When she did reply, her tone was cold and distant. Weeks passed, then months. One day, I finally asked when she was coming back. She responded, "I'm only coming to get my things. I've decided to end the marriage." I was blindsided. Yes, we were struggling, but I never expected her to walk away so suddenly, so casually. She didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to divide assets. She just wanted a cash settlement to avoid the whole mess. I was too tired to argue, so I agreed. We settled on an amount, and that was that. When she came to get her things, she didn't even look at me. No words, no eye contact, just packed up and left. I stood there, alone in the apartment we'd once shared, completely shattered. What followed was one of the darkest periods of my life. I lost myself. There were days when I didn't even want to be here. The thought of ending it all crossed my mind more times than I care to admit. The only thing that kept me going were a few close friends who refused to give up on me. They showed up, made sure I ate, sat with me, and carried me through when I couldn't stand on my own. That period shattered me, but it also forced me to confront a truth I didn't want to face. She was gone. If I wanted to survive, I had to start over from scratch. And so, I did. I threw myself into my work. My side project became my anchor. Coding turned into my therapy. I'd wake up and spend the whole day immersed in it, reading, building, testing, failing, and starting again. I had no idea where it would lead, but I was determined. If life had knocked me down, I wasn't going to stay there. I was going to rise and make the pain worth something. There were days when I'd sit by myself, thinking about how far I was from where I wanted to be. Most months, I barely made ends meet. I wasn't making six figures, not even close. But I kept pushing. Eventually, it stopped being about chasing success. It became a necessity. I needed proof that I hadn't reached my limit, that I wasn't finished just because my marriage had fallen apart. 2 years passed like that, quietly grinding away with slow progress. Then, out of nowhere, something unexpected happened. One of the features I'd been building as part of an AI tool started to attract attention. A few small businesses reached out to try it, and then word started to spread. Before long, bigger companies I had once dreamed of working with, were reaching out to me. At first, I thought it was a fluke, but the emails kept coming. That's when I realized I had created something of real value. Then came the email I'll never forget. A major tech company, one I'd admired since my time at Airbnb, was interested in acquiring my startup. I stared at the email for what felt like an eternity, reading it over and over. I called my team, and we sat down to talk it through. When we saw the numbers, we were stunned. It wasn't just life-changing money. It was the kind of money that could change generations. We unanimously voted to accept the deal. But there was more. Along with the acquisition, they offered me a long-term partnership role. I wasn't just selling out and walking away. I was joining a company I had always respected. I remember sitting alone in my apartment that night, after the deal went through. There were no grand celebrations, no toasts. It was just me, quietly reflecting on everything I had endured, finally realizing that I had made it. It had been years since Catherine left, and I hadn't heard from her since. Then, one afternoon, I ran into Tom, an old friend, while grabbing coffee. We caught up, mostly about my recent success. Then, out of nowhere, he asked how I was doing after everything with Catherine. I told him I'd moved on, that I was focused on my work. He nodded and said something that hit me hard. Crazy how that guy left her after the construction job wrapped up. Guess she's single again. I asked him what he meant. What guy? What construction job? Tom was surprised I didn't know. He explained that during the lockdown, Catherine had been living with someone else, an engineer she'd apparently been seeing while we were still married. Tom had seen them together a lot. Turns out, she never went to visit her parents like she told me. I had cut off everyone after the divorce, including Tom, so I had no idea. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd always held on to the idea that maybe our marriage just couldn't survive the pressure. But knowing she had been living a double life, that stung. Still, I didn't let it drag me back to that dark place. I had come too far. A few months later, the company that acquired us invited me to speak at their annual corporate gala, a black tie event. As a partner now, I was given the stage. I dressed up that night, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I hadn't recognized in a long time. Someone strong, someone proud. The venue was stunning, with polished marble floors and soft jazz playing in the background. When they called me up, I walked onto the stage feeling calm and ready. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her, Catherine. She was sitting at one of the tables, wearing a beautiful emerald gown. She looked just as I remembered, elegant, composed. I later found out she had come as someone's plus one. But in that moment, seeing her, everything inside me shifted. I had prepared a polished speech, but I didn't use it. Instead, I spoke from the heart. I talked about patience, about how sometimes we have to lose everything before we find what we truly need. I talked about pain and how it can shape us if we allow it to. To the room full of executives and partners, it sounded like I was reflecting on corporate growth. They nodded and smiled, but every word was for her. When I finished and stepped off the stage, I saw her wiping away tears. I don't know which part hit her hardest, but I knew she understood. Afterward, I mingled, smiled, and shook hands, but I noticed she kept watching me. It was as if she was waiting for the right moment to talk, but it never came. I was too busy, too surrounded. About a week later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was brief. "Can we meet? I'd really like to talk." I didn't need a name to know who it was. I stared at the message for a while before leaving it unread. Eventually, I blocked the number. I didn't want to go back. It had been 3 years since she left, and whatever she had to say didn't matter anymore. That chapter was over. I had written a new, better one since then. Looking back, I've learned a lot about people, about life, and about myself. Patience is powerful. When everything fell apart, I was terrified. I didn't know how long it would take to feel whole again. But rushing things, making decisions out of fear, that would have destroyed everything. Rebuilding took time. There were sleepless nights and days when I felt nothing at all. But I focused on what I could control. Gradually, the pieces started falling into place. Not quickly, but steadily. And there were moments when I came so close to giving up. If I had, none of this would have happened. No AI project, no team, no deal, no speech. None of it. That's why I want to say this to anyone out there struggling. Don't give up. You never know what the future holds if you just hang on a little longer. And remember, pain doesn't have to sit there. It can fuel you. It can shape you into someone stronger. I didn't do all of this to get revenge or prove something to anyone. I just refused to let the pain go to waste. I used it, and that's what got me here. So, let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have blocked her? Would you have answered? Would you have taken her back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know. This isn't just my story. A lot of people go through similar things in different ways. If this story hit home for you, made you think, or helped you feel seen, please like and share it. It helps more than you know. Thanks for listening, and take care of yourself.